And joining me now to wrap up the proceedings of day one, I'd like to welcome Titus Nampala. He's the CEO of the Namibian Chamber of Commerce. Remember, this is not just a G20 for South Africa. It's a G20 for the entire African continent, and none more so than our SADC neighbors. Yeah, Titus, thank you so much for joining us and making the time for us here at day one of the B20 summit.
Thank you for having me.
Titus, this G20 summit, the first within Africa, in the view of the Namibian business community, what is its impact, especially when we're speaking, take away the rest of the African continent from a SADC perspective?
Thank you so much. I think one is really to see the recognition that, like you said, is the first on the continent, that Africa is starting to be recognized as a real global player. And as Namibia, we are very thankful to South Africa that they have made sure that, this B20 summit is not just a South African summit, but it's an African summit. The South African president have said that we have seen how the invitations has gone out. Now, what does this mean for Namibia? Obviously, Namibia and South Africa are very closely interlinked. And we continue to work on modalities on how we can actually increase that relationship. But what it really means for us is making sure that, for those people who don't know, some of our small economies like Namibia, we have an opportunity to stand up and to be seen and to also highlight what are the opportunities that our country provide for international investors, international tourists, as well as our African brothers and sisters.
The space within African tourism, Titus, is massive. Not just for South Africa, but also Namibia itself. The investment part of it, especially from the global north, the G20 Presidency of South Africa allows for that to happen. But for that to happen, there needs to be a coming to the part from the global north. Do you believe that forums like this provides for that to happen?
No, absolutely. And I think when we think of tourism, the one thing we must always think about is that, we speak about the demographic dividend. And we know Africa has the youngest population. Now, when it comes to tourism, you have the shortest strategic levers that you can actually pull to influence the world of unemployment. So what do I mean by this? If you look at other investments, you actually need long leadway. You need a lot, in terms of quantum, more money to actually get, a large number of employment. When it comes to tourism, it's a little bit different. We can do cultural tourism, we can do high-end tourism, we can do middle-end tourism. And the other good thing is that, Namibia, like South Africa, but maybe Namibia a little bit different, given that, tourism is it's a year round. Whether it's winter, it's summer, the weather is lovely. It's the same all around.
And that's what I wanted to ask, because I want to really keep this on a SADC perspective, because there's so much that this group within the African continent can offer in terms of investment. You've got Windhoek, you've got Walvis Bay, two beautiful locations, two unique locations which offer something different to the visitors that are coming. Then you take the South African perspective also. There's seasons for tourism within this country, which really brings a unique perspective of this. From an economics perspective, this is where the leverage needs to come. And if we're going to leverage on saying to the international community, make this work for us, meet us halfway, then it's going to have to happen. But there's going to have to be a political will that comes from that, isn't it?
No, absolutely. Look, for business to succeed in any sector, there has to be political will. And there has to be urgency in getting things done. Not just talking about it, but really getting things done. Again, you spoke about, how South Africa and Namibia can leverage off each other. We share a national park, the Trans-Kalahari Frontier Park, which goes from South Africa to Namibia to Botswana. Now, one of the things we have pushed as the Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Namibia is saying, why don't we have a regional approach where when we market our countries, instead of South Africa marketing South Africa, Namibia marketing Namibia, Botswana marketing Botswana, etc., and we can take off all the SADC countries. How about where we say, you know what, we have a number of gems in our countries. So maybe you come, you go to the Kruger. After the Kruger, maybe you go to the Kalahari. You choose whether you want to see all the three countries. After that, maybe you want to see the Namib-Naukluft. Maybe you want to go to the Chobe, which again connects you to Namibia, Zambia, Zim, all at the same time. You can do that in 1 week. So, the key message that I really want to highlight, and the one that we have been pushing as the Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Namibia, is that Africa must pull in one direction. Yes. If Europe, as strong as it is, as wealthy as it is, realize that France cannot do it alone, Germany cannot do it alone, Italy cannot do it alone, they know and they understand that for them to have a collective muscle, they need to have an EU. So Africa must think in the same direction.
You know what's interesting about what you said right now, pulling in the same direction? Earlier on, I had spoken to Bohani Hlungwane from ABSA CIB, and 17% of intra-Africa trade. That's very low. And I'm sure from a Namibian Chamber of Commerce perspective, you'd say the same thing. Listening to President Cyril Ramaphosa, he said much more needs to be done through the Africa Free Trade Agreement. Do you share those sentiments, Titus?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think before Africa can start, with an ambition of trading with the world, we must trade with ourselves. And it's not just a question of trade, it's a question of movement, not just of people, but of goods as well. I've spent much of my life, about 20 years, serving the African continent in multiple capacities. And what you know is that we're sitting in Joburg at the moment. Try and find a flight to Dakar. And you'll see how difficult it is. I took a sabbatical a couple of months ago where I traveled from Joburg all the way to East Africa. I have a lot of stories to tell you. But what it really comes out at is that, we must look at how the trade impediments affect the men on the street and how do we resolve that. But again, it is very critical that for us to trade with the world, we must trade with ourselves. And it must not just be talk in the boardroom, but real action on the streets.
Real action on the streets. And this is the forum for it to happen. I see around businesses, and we've got one final question, Titus, because I know I have to let you go. This G20 presidency, if Africa is not going to take its seat at the table, and I know Africa wants to do it, to tell the global north, we are here, recognize us, because we have a part to play. The African continent has a part to play. The time is now, isn't it?
No, absolutely. I'm going to put it differently. I think Africa is at the table, but the difference, we need to be in the kitchen. We need to be choosing the ingredients for what the meal is. Because you know what? When you get to the table, the meal is already prepared. You just have a choice on what are you going to get from what's on the table. We need to be in the kitchen.
Titus, absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for joining us. All the best.
Thank you for having me.
That's Titus Nampala, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Namibian Chamber of Commerce. That wraps up day one here at the B20 Summit.